Thank you, everyone, for being here, and good evening. My name, and most of you know me by sending emails to. My name is Sandra Gudic, and I am the Education Outreach Administrator at the Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies at Harvard University. We're so glad you could join us for this first session of our six-part webinar series, The Arts of Eastern Europe and Eurasia. This series is designed specifically for educators looking to bring the rich, diverse, and vibrant artistic traditions of Russia, Eastern Europe, and Eurasia into their classrooms. This webinar series is a collaboration initiative between 8 different centers. We're all national resource centers from different universities, and all of us are regionally affiliated with Russia, Eurasia, and Eastern Europe. So rather than naming this component for every university, I would just say it's a collaboration between Harvard University, University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of Pittsburgh, University of Kansas, the Ohio State University, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Institute or the Russian European Institute at Indiana University, and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So we are excited to kick off this session with today's presentation led by Iryna Voloshyna, focusing on interdisciplinary strategies of teaching traditional cultural heritage. As a reminder, each of the 6 90-minute webinars in this series will focus on a different art form, ranging from music and dance to literature, visual arts, cultural artifacts, and theater and film. We encourage you to register for any or all of the upcoming sessions. While the webinars are designed as part of a cohesive series, you are welcome to attend as many or as few as you'd like. Educators who decide to attend all 6 sessions will be eligible to receive 10 professional development or contact hours points. To ensure accurate tracking for those seeking credit, please make sure your full name is displayed on Zoom during each session so we can mark you as present to be able to count these points. Once again, thank you for joining us. We're thrilled to have you here, and we are really looking forward to this series. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to Lindsay, who will introduce our speaker for tonight, and then we move from there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandra. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Iryna Voloshyna. Iryna is a PhD candidate at the Department of Folklore and Ethnomusicology at Indiana University Bloomington. She's also the founding artistic director of Indiana Slavic Choir and a board member of the Ukrainian Studies Organization at Indiana University. Her research interests include politics of culture, nationalisms, migration and diaspora studies, critical heritage studies, material culture, Slavic and East European folklore, Ukrainian traditional music, and arts. Her preliminary dissertation title is The Ukrainian Bandurist Chorus of North America, Tradition and Transition in Diaspora. Welcome, Iryna.
Thank you so much, Sandra and Lindsay, for such a warm welcome. And I am really honored to be the first speaker in this series. I think it's an amazing initiative of a group of universities to offer these webinars to the teachers. So let me start with sharing my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Yes. So I decided to name my presentation today as interdisciplinary strategies for teaching a traditional cultural heritage. And a little bit about myself. So like Lindsay said, I'm a PhD candidate in folklore and ethnomusicology at IU, but also I'm an adjunct lecturer at the Russian East European Institute that is a part of Hamilton Lugar's School of Global and International Affairs. And I just want to mention that because essentially I'm a folklorist who teaches classes on folklore through Area Studies Institute. So I'm already positioned as a person who has an interdisciplinary approach in my teaching. This is a name of my class in folklore that I'm teaching. And in my class, I have only one student who is a major in folklore. Everybody else are area studies students, mostly Central Eurasian studies or East European studies people, history majors, political science. It is international studies, so it's a very diverse crowd in terms of disciplines. So I'm in that position now where I have to adapt my training to a crowd that I have through a discipline I'm in now. My alter ego is that I was trained as a global network facilitator for the UNESCO Living Heritage Unit. It means that so the role of a facilitator is to work with UNESCO and also national and local authorities and the communities whose traditional practices are being inscribed in order to give the representation and the voice to everybody in this process of nominating a tradition or practice to the UNESCO ICH level. So I know a little bit about how UNESCO works from the inside, and one of the initiatives that they developed recently is strategically to help teachers integrate the practices of traditional cultural heritage into their curriculum. Before we go there, let me just explain a few key concepts that UNESCO uses in its work. So one of the main documents that UNESCO uses nowadays is the 2003 Convention for Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. I'll be using ICH as an abbreviation. And in Article 2, definitions where, it's defined what is safeguarding, what is heritage, what is intangible, right? So like all the definitions, this safeguarding explanation says that these are means measures aimed at ensuring, oh, sorry, I have to move myself from here, at ensuring the viability of the intangible cultural heritage, including the identifications, documentation, research, preservation, protection, promotion, enhancement, transmission, particularly through formal and non-formal education, as well as the revitalization of the various aspects of such heritage. So a key step in safeguarding of the tradition is to teach it to others, right? We cannot preserve it in a museum or in a box. Then it becomes non-living heritage. So education is super important when it comes to keeping a tradition alive. In the same convention of the ICH, in Article 14 on education, awareness raising, and capacity building, the members of the UNESCO Convention recognize that educational programs aid at the general public, particularly young people, are very important, right? The next point is that specific education and training programs within the communities and groups concerned. And also they highlight the non-formal means of transmitting the knowledge. And one of another directions that they take is to promote education for protection of natural spaces and places of memory. So education is really, really central in promoting, safeguarding, and preserving the cultural heritage according to UNESCO. And it is also a part of the outlined UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals that say that in ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. And also its target is to integrate living heritage in formal and informal education because it emphasizes learning to appreciate cultural diversity and the role of culture in development, global citizenship, and peace education, as well as education for sustainable development, as all as part of the criteria for high quality education. So several documents at UNESCO really highlight the importance of accessible education to everybody, and also preserving the traditional heritage practices in this education. So let's keep that in mind. So in 2019, UNESCO, together with the EU, launched a project it's a pilot project, and it's called Teaching and Learning with Living Heritage. So I would like to share the video, the launch speech for this project. I'll stop sharing my screen for just a second because I need to show the YouTube video. Okay. People are still joining. Great. Okay. Let me know if you can hear well.
In a world increasingly under.
Do you hear it?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. I'll start from the beginning. It's about 5 minutes long. Let's watch it.
In a world increasingly under economic, environmental, and social pressure, we need to
Iryna,
work and disciplinary boundaries.
Yes, somebody is
we
unmuted.
can hear it. It's Sandra. We can hear it, but we can't see
Oh,
the
you can-
video.
Oh, you can.
So we
Okay.
hear the sound, but we can't see the image.
Check all state first and say hundreds.
Okay, and also somebody is unmuted.
Iryna, I would try resharing, but when you reshare, there is a set of checkboxes to the right that say shared sound and optimized for video sharing. I would just make sure that those are checked off.
So both of them need to be checked, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try now. Do you see it now?
Not yet. We're
Not
waiting.
It's just black.
Yeah. It says that you started sharing screen, but it's not really coming up. Do you have a link to the video? Do you want to send
Yes,
it?
yes, I can just share a link if that's easier. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can try, or Alicia, if you know, like you can try from your laptop sharing it in case
So I just share it in the chat.
in the chat. Yeah.
Sounds good. Can you see it?
No, it's the same as with Iryna. Just now we see.
Here it is. Okay.
And disciplinary boundaries to find creative and sustainable solutions to global challenges. Living heritage is an incredibly rich resource for communities that contributes to the achievement of several sustainable development goals. raising awareness among younger generation and supporting them to explore, recognize, and participate in the transmission of their living heritage is fundamental for its viability. When acknowledged and shared, especially at an early age, living heritage cultivates respect and appreciation for cultural diversity, facilitates intercultural dialogue, and contributes to more resilient, peaceful, and inclusive societies. Education and educators can play a crucial role in safeguarding living heritage. The 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage clearly recognized the transmission of living heritage through formal and non-formal education as a key safeguarding measure. Incorporating intangible cultural heritage in education raises awareness about why it's matter and why we need to safeguard it. It can provide content and methods to improve the relevance of education and learning outcomes. UNESCO has been promoting the integration of living heritage in education over the past few years through regional and national projects around the world with excellent results. One example is the online resource kit for teachers teaching and learning with living heritage, which can be found on our webpage. The result of partnership between UNESCO and the EU, the kit provides a practical guide for teachers on how to integrate living heritage in a wide range of school subjects, from mathematics to physics, chemistry, social science, literature, sports, or arts. It provides a step-by-step methodology, a series of case studies, practical tools, and short films that illustrate a range of different approaches.
Indeed, when education connects with one's life, culture, and surroundings, it immediately becomes more meaningful. This is the importance of integrating living heritage in school-based learning from an early age. It's the starting point of our cultural diversity, and discovering the richness of the world's living heritage. As such, learning with living heritage opens a window onto the creativity of our shared humanity and contributes to developing a sense of common belonging and global citizenship. Integrating living heritage in education can transform teaching and learning practices. It encourages collaboration around projects, experiential learning, and multidisciplinary approaches. It opens schools onto the community and invites different generations who are bearers of this living heritage to share and transmit it. Because safeguarding our living heritage starts with appreciating its value and taking pride in traditions that are part of our fabric. As such, a living heritage offers a source of creativity that can inspire innovation in education, nurture respect, tolerance, and openness. Learning with living heritage touches the mind and heart, and in this way gives students rich material to learn about themselves and the others, and ultimately to promote peace and social inclusion. In fact, a very specific target, 4.7, of the Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education captures this transformational power dimension, including by fostering appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. In this journey of discovery and learning, with and about living heritage, we stand ready to join forces with all our partners to ensure that education is holistic and transformative for individuals and societies.
Yes, and we would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who is already integrating living heritage in education and encourage all relevant stakeholders to do the same. To teachers, school directors, members of the UNESCO Associate School Networks and their coordinators, but also the barriers and NGOs working on safeguarding living heritage. We hope that the resource, materials, films, and tools will inspire many teachers around the world to make living heritage part of the everyday teaching.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, back to my PowerPoint. So yes, That was an introduction or like launch speech for this initiative that is called Teaching and Learning with Living Heritage, and they mentioned the toolkit that they made based on their research and project outcomes. And so I will introduce it to you. I think it's a wonderful resource that many teachers around the globe would be able to use and adapt to their like needs of a classroom or of the class or of the students. So, like I said, it was launched in 2019 and is based on UNESCO, EU, and UNESCO project. This initiative has succeeded in creating an active network of committed young heritage professionals, and has opened the way for new approaches to teaching and learning with living heritage in primary and secondary schools. So like only these two age groups were taken. Activities are nowadays underway in more than 30 countries around the world. And this initiative involved teachers and learners, school directors, and national coordinators of the UNESCO Associated Schools Network, tradition bearers, and practitioners of intangible cultural heritage. So this is a model that unites tradition bearers, community members, students, their families, teachers, and UNESCO together. So and it's been tried out in a few places already. I wanted to, so I will, at the end of this webinar, I will share in the chat all the links to all the resources I want to share with you, but essentially they created this EU UNESCO project. They created a teaching and learning with living heritage, a resource kit for teachers, and it has multiple examples of like lesson plans, activities, and such, videos, like materials for additional research for teachers. And I will showcase a few examples from there, and then I will share a link to the entire document. But here are a few quotes from that kit I wanted to present here and comment on. So a teacher from Austria says, I never thought I would be interested in living heritage, or that I could integrate it in my teaching. After this experience as teachers, we understood that living heritage can be combined with any school subject. And I will show you a few examples of how traditional practices from Eastern Europe can be used for teaching math or 3D modeling or even physics or chemistry. It's actually really amazing how these recommendations like offer these amazing like out of the box ideas. So a student from Czechia said, living heritage seemed to create a space for everyone to participate. Folk arts are usually very accessible. You didn't need to go to college or have a degree to be a folk musician or an artist, right? So essentially, it really it's a very inclusive field, and it can be very accessible to everyone. A teacher from Belgium said, children with migration background often feel that there is no space for them to express themselves and to share where they come from. By integrating living heritage in our teaching, students were so happy that the school provided a space for their culture. So Yes, especially in the diverse classrooms in the US, it's always an opportunity to invite one of the students be a tradition bearer of some practice or knowledge from their background and teach others. And so it already creates like a different dynamic in the classroom. And these recommendations that we're going to be looking at, they actually encourage people to use local resources. Okay, so I wanted to show you a few case studies. This is a video that's called More Than a Toy from students in Odessa, Ukraine nowadays, how they learned 3D modeling, chemistry, and history with the Black Sea clay figurines. So let me stop sharing my screen, and again, I will need to share the video on the player that I have it. I hope it's gonna be okay. Let me see if you see UNESCO written.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So let's watch a video. It's also 5 minutes long. It's an amazing illustration of how this project is actually applied locally in schools. So please.
Всіх вітаю, мене звати Ігор, мені 13 років, я вчусь в ліцеї «Гармонія» в Україні, в Одесі, що на березі Чорного моря. Тут живуть люди різних національностей, та в нашому ліцеї вчаться різні діти.
Мене звати Надія Назарчук. Я заступник директора ліцею, який входить до мережі асоційованих шкіл ЮНЕСКО. Я ініціювала долучення до проєкту «Живою спадщиною», бо хотіла, аби діти побачили, що спадщина є частиною нашого життя і відчули зв'язок і приналежність до неї. Учні почали з простого завдання – розпитати своїх батьків, дідусів і бабусь про їхні сімейні традиції, дізнатися, чому вони важливі для родини і як їх здійснюють зараз. Потім я попросила учнів розповісти в класі те, про що вони дізналися. Результати були вражаючі. Діти показали, як вони роблять витинанки, ляльки-мотанки, вишивку бісером. Ми дізналися, як у родинах випікають великодні паски, створюють писанки, роблять вироби з шматочків тканин.
Ми поїхали до Одеського обласного центру української культури, щоб дізнатись більше про нашу живу спадщину. Ми хотіли познайомитись з майстрами і подивитись, як вони працюють. У центрі були приготовлені 3 столи з традиційними виробами. Перший стіл був наданий витинанкам, другий – великоднім писанкам, а третій – останній – причорноморській глиняній іграшці. Працівники центру запропонували нам вибрати стіл із тією традицією, про яку ми хотіли дізнатись більше. Здогадайтесь, який стіл нас зацікавив найбільше? Глиняні іграшки, знайомі кожному з нас, хоч би звідки він був. Ми всі пам'ятаємо, як грались в дитинстві цими кольоровими фігурками. Мабуть, тому і вибрали їх як прояв нашої живої спадщини для проєкту ЮНЕСКО. Було так цікаво подивитись на іграшки нашого дитинства з іншого боку і дізнатися, як їх роблять. Просто круто!
Глина українською мовою глей, тобто клей. От у нас причорноморська зона. І в нас народ обробляв глину з найдавніших часів, буквально тисячоліттями тому. І ті характеристики місцевості, які вони спостерігали, вони передавали через цей матеріал, навіть ліплячи посудину, вони передавали їй певний образ.
Потім, уже в школі, на уроці технологій, ми вчилися створювати 3D-моделі глиняної іграшки. У вигляді птаха за спеціальною програмою друкували їх на 3D-принтері. Оце було круто! А далі самі робили іграшки з глини.
Зараз я їм приготую такі маленькі шматочки для... Ми будемо сьогодні ліпити іграшку у вигляді пташки. І будемо ліпити причорноморську іграшку, ось таку пташку, свищик. Дивитесь, як вона розписана, бачите? Тут такі квіти, ну, декоративні. Так, це українська глина із Слов'янську. Там є завод. Ну, поки що там складнощі.
Проект ЮНЕСКО з живою спадщиною створив унікальну можливість для мультидисциплінарного навчання. Він об'єднав учителів різних предметів, а також учнів різного віку. Учні створювали 3D-моделі іграшки на уроках технології, самі ліпили іграшки, досліджували історію іграшки і подібність з іншими регіонами України на уроках історії. На уроках географії вивчали поклади, якої глини є в Україні і яку глину для чого використовують. На уроках хімії дізналися, які фарби краще використовувати для роботи з глиною та якою має бути температура обробки. Введення в навчання живої спадщини з різних перспектив може надихнути дітей на продовження такої практики. Адже жива спадщина створює надійні та відкриті для всіх можливості економічного розвитку та підприємництва.
Було цікаво побачити, як унаслідок хімічних процесів народжується іграшка. Я і не знав, що для виготовлення цих іграшок потрібно розбиратися в хімії. Дякуючи проєкту ЮНЕСКО, ми дізналися, що наша жива спадщина несе в собі багато знань і дуже важливо. Жива спадщина викликає в нас гордість, радість і об'єднує нас. Вона передається від покоління до покоління. Тепер наша черга стати носіями нашої живої спадщини і зберегти нашу традицію живою.
All right. I'll share my presentation again. So yes, this is a wonderful video and a great example how through teaching about and making a traditional clay toy, the students in Odessa learned a multiple disciplines from chemistry to 3D modeling to history to actually making the toy, right? And of course, it's important to mention that this project was filmed in 2023, already during the ongoing Russian war against Ukraine. So these children were filmed, amidst the Russian attacks and air raid sirens. So, and these children probably have a much different understanding and realization of why a cultural heritage is important to them and what is at stake, right? So, in this context, learning about heritage is part of national security for the future of Ukraine. I have a few other examples. Oh yeah, and it's important to mention that this project in Ukraine was a part of the larger supporting the resilience of Ukrainian school children through enhancing awareness of their living heritage. So it was a separate UNESCO project launched in Ukraine and implemented by a development center, Democracy Through Culture in Kyiv, Ukraine. There is another example I wanted to show. This example is, so it's a video, it's a shorter one. It's from Austria, Glöcklerlauf, if my German is good enough. So this is a video of learning about and participating in a Christmas caroling-like tradition in Austria, and how children learned about this living heritage in a computer-aided design, mathematics, physics, and art classes. So let's see. If I just click on the video Does it take you to YouTube or no? It
No, I
does.
think you're gonna have to stop sharing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will stop sharing and I will take you to that YouTube separately. How about now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. So let's watch this video from Austria.
Try to make it full screen if you don't mind.
It is. It is on my end. Is it not on your end?
Not
Hello?
yet. If you click that, maybe.
No, it's
It's okay. Don't worry.
full screen on my end.
The image is not moving, so it's just the music we're hearing. So it's again
Okay,
the same problem. Do you
Yeah, I'll share the link with
the
you
link?
again.
Yeah.
Same problem. I apologize. I don't know what's happening. We thought it was all working, but let's see. Okay.
You can stop sharing your screen.
Mhm.
Alicia, do you want to take that again? There she is.
All right. Thank you so much, Alicia. Okay, back to my presentation. Yeah, so I know that Austria is a little bit outside of our region of interest here, but also in Eastern Europe and Eurasia, there are many similar Christmas celebrations, right? So like we can take this model of discussing Christmas tradition or like winter holidays and taking, I really love the idea of how you can learn about the bells in physics, or you can like make a bell or like a star in a 3D modeling class, right? Not only you take a different lens, you have like a better understanding of appreciation of that tradition from like other disciplines. So those are two examples, two video examples. So here I wanted to actually go through several examples that I thought would be very applicable to our area of interest. So I have an example of a common recipe usage in language and mathematics classes in Estonia. We have kuchikaik Christmas cookies used in civic education, language, technology, and mathematics classes in Lithuania. We have a traditional decorative patterns in mathematics classes in Poland, and Mazopust carnival in civic education, English, history, and arts classes in Czechia. So let me again share these separately in separate windows with you. Okay. Okay, so let's start with Lithuania. Let me just go back here. Do you see Lithuania?
Yes.
Yes, okay, wonderful. So this is one of the examples that you will find in that teacher resource kit. So essentially, this is an example of class you can teach, right? So Kuchikai Christmas cookies and how they can be used in civil education and all these classes in Lithuania. So it offers the age of the students, and so it has an explanation of what this tradition is and how it is going to be used in these classes. And also it has a recommendation that learning by doing proved to be an inclusive and engaging activity for all, including students with physical disabilities. So it has like the inclusivity recommendations. So this is how this activity of making these cookies and learning about them will be used in many classes. So it can be used in English, German, Russian, or Lithuanian languages classes. Students can use the recipe and translate it to or from other languages. So it already adds, like you practice language, and also it adds translation skills, which is a different skill. In technology, they will acquire a practical baking skills. So like actually baking it is already an activity. So in mathematics, over here it says that they use the information in the recipe to calculate the cost of preparing and baking the cookies. So mathematics and maybe some economics there too. And also it has objectives related to the ICH element outlined. So so in approaching learning about tradition in this multidisciplinary way, it raises awareness of the living heritage, and also it deepens the knowledge about Christmas-related traditions in local communities, and also teaches the children to appreciate these traditions in other cultures. So these are descriptions of activities for different classes, for mathematics, language, civic activities. And next page. Oh, and that's it, right? So, oh no, yes, and that's it. So in that toolkit, you will see several examples like these that outlines a tradition you can use in teaching, and then outcomes and lesson plans. Let's look at decorative patterns in Poland. Let me share my screen now. That one is very interesting too. Here it is. No, that's Lithuania, sorry, wrong window. Do you see it?
Not yet, but it's probably going to project in a bit. We just now we see it. Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Yes. So again, it's a lesson plan, a suggestion of teaching traditional decorative patterns in mathematics classes in Poland. Or you can use it to teach about Poland if you are teaching in that area. So the recommended age is 13 years old, and it like in introduction it says that Poland is rich with the traditional ornaments, and they differ from a region to a region, and these decorations have meanings and also aesthetic value. So in mathematics class, the teachers will be using these traditional ornaments to teach about symmetry, with a focus on identifying symmetrical figures, drawing axes of symmetry and explaining why a figure is or is not symmetrical. I find it fascinating that really looking at these ornaments, you can see how it has symmetry, it has asymmetry, and also can a thing be symmetrical, or like an art be symmetrical if it's done by hand, you know. So lots of things to discuss, right? Anyway, so it offers how to prepare a group for this activity. So again, the students were advised to ask their members of the families or a community and learn about these ornaments, or find an object at home like has an ornament, and later analyze it in a mathematics class, right? So they do a little bit of their own research, and they have activities over here outlined, or like learning objectives, and what they do for homework and learning outcomes. So essentially, these are the examples you can use to think about how you can integrate a topic on culture with like other classes or disciplines, or teach it together with other teachers as well. Lots of interesting ideas. How much time do we have? Should I start wrapping up?
We have 40 minutes left. So if you want, I mean, there'll be time for Q&A. It just depends how much you prefer for how long to present and what time to dedicate to Q&A. So
yeah, I have two other examples. I will be sharing all these links. So I just want to ask the audience, do you want me to show the other two, or we can skip them and we can move on?
I think that's going to have to be your decision, Iryna.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll quickly then show two other examples, because all of them I think are just fascinating. Okay, let me just share them.
We have encouragement from the chat for exactly that. So support.
Yes.
For
Okay.
that.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. Okay. Let me just close the video. Okay. Estonian example. Let me share it. Okay, so let me move things around here. Okay, so a common recipe in language and mathematics classes in Estonia. So again, age of students is 13 to 18. And in mathematics, Estonian and English languages classes, that's where this recipe is going to be used as a teaching tool. Okay, so what is recommended? How is integrating in teaching about this tradition is recommended to be used in Estonian language class? So it's recommended that it will help recognizing the different periods in the evolution of the Estonian alphabet and the different forms of written Estonian. So essentially, if you take an older version recipe of like text of the recipe from 16th to 17th century from like a cookbook, so you can learn about the history of your own language, right? I think it's a fascinating idea. Listing the different stages in the history of the Estonian language and describing the life of a peasant at the turn of the 20th century based on prior knowledge of literature and history. So rich, so much, you know, ideas and inspirations. Reading Gothic scripts with some help. How amazing is that? I would like, I would love to learn to like, you know, learn about the recipe, but read it in a Gothic script. It's amazing. Exploring the etymology and other meanings of the word comma, right? So from just using an old recipe, you can teach like 5 disciplines at, you know, or directions within your own language, essentially. English language, you can translate the recipe into English if it's foreign language, right? And then think about how to translate the proper names of the dishes. Is it translatable or no? Lots of ideas. And also in mathematics, converting measurement units from the imperial system to the metric system, an amazing idea, and calculating proportions using percentages, also a very applicable skill. And these are the objectives listed to, you know, related to the ICH element. And again, a discussion or a description of an activity is laid out in detail here. And let's see. Oh, and that's it. And that's it. And that's the entire lesson plan. Oh yeah, learning outcomes as well. So that was an Estonian example. I have one more, and then we can move on, because I really like these. I think that you don't, it just helps a teacher tremendously, I think, to prepare for classes. Okay. Mazopust Carnival in civic education, English, history, and the arts classes in Czechia. So this is for a little bit older age group, 18 to 16 to 18. And it has a description of what Mazopust is. So it's essentially also a winter celebratory festival in the Czech culture. And these are the recommendations. So you can use this festival in English language, so English as a foreign language in Czechia. So learning how to describe your own festival from your culture to foreigners. It's also like intercultural you know, communication skills as well. History and civic education, understanding the differences between the Mazopust carnival and the other celebrations such as Easter and Christmas, as well as relationship between the related practices. And in the arts class, learning about the anatomy and representing the human body in movement, and also objectives related to preserving this element of intangible cultural heritage. Recommendations on how to prepare for the class as a teacher and also as a student, and activities that you can do. So these are my 4 examples, mostly related to our region, that I thought would be wonderful to share with everybody. Okay, moving on. I'll probably just share another link in the chat, or I'll send a link in the chat later, not to take any more time. So I just wanted to offer an example of how you can, or how I have used classes on the Kosiv ceramics from Ukraine in many classrooms, in folklore, in Ukrainian studies, in Saturday school for children in the US. So I showed them an introductory video about what this tradition is. A video is produced by UNESCO. It's high quality. It's like nice English subtitles. I provide the context for this tradition, you know, like some general information. Then we discuss the geography and natural resources in the Carpathian mountain regions. So because clay is really, you know, it's a natural resource there. That's why this you know, tradition really flourishes in the region until now. You can also learn about the chemical processes that are taking place during the traditional making of the pots. And also we can do, especially for younger children, we can do coloring. So I show them this plate with a bird in the center, and then flowers, and then some geometrical figures. This tradition of ceramics in Kosovo, it also only uses 3 colors, so yellow, brown, and green, and that's it. And then I invite the students using only these you know, 3 colors and imagination of like how they would like to combine the colors, or like experiment with them to paint their own plate. And that's usually very exciting among undergrads, because they really like learn to appreciate this aspect of materiality of the culture, that it actually, you know, takes an effort to make something, even if it's like as simple as coloring or choosing a color for the ornament. Yeah, so summing up, I will share with you the resources on the EU UNESCO resource kit for teachers. I also invite you to use local resources wherever you are, if you would like to bring more culture to your classrooms, right? So the students and their families are amazing resources, members of the community. If you want, or if you have them, many states have folk arts councils, or at least in state art councils, there might be people responsible for the traditional heritage. So reach out to them. They might have ideas, or like names or contacts of local artists of absolutely different backgrounds, and maybe you can reach out to them and invite them to your classroom. Maybe they're like immigrant artists who would love to share about their heritage and tradition that they're bearers of. So yes, use local resources, and I will send all the links in the chat, and I will be very happy if you have any questions or comments. But thank you for having me.